Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Western Herald Headlined, the show that we put on at Western Herald that goes over some of the news, some of the activities going on at WMU, some of the stuff we've written about, and goes a little bit in depth and provides a little space to talk about it. I'm Aidan Ralko, multimedia editor for Western Herald, and today I am joined by
Jack Mennicke, the sports editor at Western Herald.
And Joseph Hartzell, the lead sports reporter at Western Herald.
Oh, yeah. It's a full-on sports episode here today. Something that we haven't had in a minute.
Yeah.
In a minute. But I understand that you guys, we learned at the end of last semester, you guys are in a little bit of a race for podcast appearances.
Yeah, for those who don't know, we counted it up. Me and Joey have been featured in the most podcasts for this show for all of the Western Herald staff. So they can't really touch us. We're the best.
I believe I overtook you as well after a early second semester appearance.
Yes.
Did you already do one this semester?
I have already done one this
Yeah.
semester.
Well, I'm in second now.
Yeah, I
That's
think
okay.
Joey,
is
as of today, is one up on
Well, you got to be getting up there.
And I'm getting up there because
Well, now you
I've
got every week.
now been identified as the, I guess, host a little bit. So I'm racking them up. I haven't done an exact count because I didn't do too many last semester because I was doing camera and stuff.
Behind
so
the scenes. I count that.
nah, who knows? Who knows? But it's awesome to have both of you here today, and
Yes.
hopefully we'll see you more on the show for the rest of the weeks to come in the semester.
oh, I'll be
You know
back.
But
We love to spew our sports propaganda.
Yep. But going off of that, we are here to talk about sports. And we're in sort of, I guess, would you call it the winter season of sports? The sports have
That's
seasons?
what I would call it.
The home stretch really of the winter season
Yeah.
for these sports.
Okay.
A lot of sports are
We're kind of
coming down to the wire here. Basketball's only got like 5 games left,
Yeah.
and hockey's got 6 before a conference tournament starts. So
Okay, well, and that sort of introduces our topic. I would like to start talking about our men's basketball team.
Yeah.
Jack.
I'll bring us into that. So the Broncos, they started off struggling, but they are now 6-7 in the MAC. They won their last 2 games. Those games coming against Miami on February 15th. It was a 78-70 W, and then against Buffalo on February 18th, that was a 97-64 win. So big time win for the Broncos against Buffalo, a team that they previously lost to this season. Me and Aidan were both at that game, so it's obviously we weren't at the Buffalo game on Tuesday because it was in Buffalo. So, but surprising to see that they came out as strong as they did against a team that
Yeah.
really they were in that game, but it was much more of a close
Yes.
battle than a
Yeah.
97-64 win.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that first game against Buffalo, I don't think the final score spelled the whole story for the game. Being there and watching what was going on, it was a little messy, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, so to speak. It was sort of a rough watch at points. So yeah, to see that they sort of turned it around against that same team, and that's a pretty decent margin for a win, I would say.
very decent. Yes.
yeah, I mean, and especially it probably shouldn't have dropped one at home, considering Buffalo is 3-10 in the MAC, really struggling. But rebounding and finding a way to kind of overcome that and get one back on the road. It's always tough to win on the road. And then big win over Miami of Ohio, who is at the top of the conference. They're 10-3 right now. They're in second place behind Akron. And I think that when you look at it, Western has, in this last 3-game stretch, I'm going to include Akron because Akron's just an incredible team for the MAC level, and Western competed with them and was in that game the entire time. Western has won the rebounding battle the last 3 games, and in their last 2 wins, it's been by at least 16 rebounds each game. In fact, in the Miami of Ohio game, they beat them up on the glass. It was 54-26 in the rebounding battle. So Western has kind of overcome the shooting struggles a little bit and is now in 8th place in the MAC and looking at another MAC tournament appearance for Dwayne Stevens. Should be his 2nd straight.
Yeah, and that was something that I also want to talk about. I believe do we know how many teams make it into that MAC tournament?
8.
8. So they're sitting right sort of on the cusp right there. And what does that kind of look like with some of the people ahead of them And then directly behind, how are they shaping up sort of at that lower end of the standings?
I would tell you that there's still 2 huge games left to circle, and that's Central Michigan, which is this Saturday. So by the time that you guys are seeing this, we will have a recap up on the Western Herald website, westernherald.com.
Let's go read that.
And that's a big game considering that Central Michigan is 2 games back from Western and is really the next closest threat, them in Bowling Green, to surpass us in standings. They're both 2 games behind us, tied at 4-9 in the conference. And we also finished the season on March 7th at Bowling Green. So those are 2 huge games. Combined with playing Northern Illinois, who's all due respect, one of the worst teams in the country. That should be a win for Western, and that's a game that Western needs to win, I think, in order to really cement themselves in the MAC tournament and give them a good shot, and maybe even jump up a couple seed lines, since there's 3 teams here tied at 6 and 7, and Western is the 8th or the 3rd of the 3. So picking up a few wins here down the stretch would really help, and could help you avoid Akron maybe in the conference tournament, which would be a big leg up. You'd much rather get a Toledo than an Akron.
Right, you don't want to see that 13 in Akron team round 1. That's kind of just a recipe for disaster for the other Broncos, who had already lost to them this season. Obviously, we mentioned they're a great team, so that loss isn't anything to really go against, but obviously you don't want to see them first round.
Yeah, that would suck. That would put a damper on the tournament hopes.
Yeah.
But what does the team sort of need to do to, I guess, keep the dream alive, so to speak? Like, what are they looking towards adjusting or keeping consistent while they finish out this regular season?
I think you kind of touched on the rebounding aspect in particular. I know that I remember this because I covered the game against Buffalo. We had like one of the best rebounding margins in the country as of that time when I was when we were covering that. And Buffalo had like a negative rebounding margin, but we allowed Buffalo to out-rebound us in that game, which could be a reason why we dropped that game. And then obviously, you mentioned it, a plus 16 advantage against Buffalo on last Tuesday. So that led to a 97-64 win. So I think the rebounding is big thing for this team, especially because our shooting as the season whole isn't the best.
Yeah.
We obviously shot the ball really well against Buffalo on Tuesday, but as a whole, it's been pretty average. The shooting clips in particular. So I think that the rebounding, getting those second chance points, is a big thing for this team who struggles to shoot the ball. So I mean, 2 attempts is always better than 1.
That's the truth.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing as far as how we can maintain the success. But what else do you think? Yeah,
I would completely agree. Bouncing off of that, we are 350th out of 363 teams and 3-pointers made per game. So getting those extra possessions,
my average,
getting those extra possessions and not allowing them, kind of stealing extra possessions in the rebounding battle, not giving your opponent any extra possessions on the offensive end. They're always one and done. And then giving yourself 2-3 cracks at it to, this Western team doesn't take a lot of threes and doesn't make them at a super high clip, but, getting more up and getting more shots at the rim, which offensive rebounds allow for, has really helped this Western Michigan team. And you've kind of seen them start to score a little bit, which is very unusual for a team that only makes about 5.5 threes a game. It's very unusual for Western to start scoring 97 points like they did against Buffalo. So it's I would say the biggest key is really continuing to dominate the glass and hitting open shots. Like, you don't have to be a great shooting team, but make teams pay a little bit when they have a failed defensive rotation and just capitalize on mistakes. And this team has a great guard in Chaney Willis Jr. who can really go off. I mean, he had a great game against Michigan State. You saw him go into the Breslin Center, and honestly, he was probably the best guard on the floor that game, which, talking about a bona fide top 15 team in Michigan State there, which is impressive, and I think that gives you a chance in any MAC game.
Yeah,
definitely.
For sure. I think that's a good place to jump to our next subject here. Our hockey team here at Western. They're doing pretty good from what I've seen. I don't know a lot about the hockey world and sort of what that looks like, but what are we thinking about our hockey team?
It's been a huge year. currently sitting at first place in the NCHC, which is the premier hockey league in the country for college hockey. And the Broncos have a chance to clinch the conference regular season this weekend against Arizona State, which is huge. Two regulation wins would give the Broncos the required points that it would no longer matter. We could lose out, and the teams in second place could win out, and we would still win the conference regular season. So it has been a very dominant year. This team has just kind of excelled at every step of the way. Couple of slip-ups, but nothing major. You're talking about a road loss to Boston College, who's probably the best team in the country. If it's not Western Michigan or Michigan State right now, Western also played Michigan State in a neutral environment, and that was a great game. So sitting here at 22-5-1, like after replacing 16 skaters, is just such an impressive job by Pat Ferschweiler. And some credit should go to a lot of the guys that have been able to come in. Like a lot of the freshmen have come in and been seamless additions. You've seen guys like Hakkarainen who have stepped in and produced from day one, guys winning conference awards. And Western's sitting at 5th in the pairwise right now. So we're looking at the top 2 seed, which I believe would give us UMass Lowell in the first round, and then we would likely play Maine in the second round to try to advance to a Frozen Four. Yeah.
So you said that they're 5th overall is where we're standing right now?
So in the computer system that which is Pairwise is a computer that takes every game into account, takes a lot of stuff into account, and ranks teams, and it basically mimics how the NCAA tournament seeds.
Okay.
And so we effectively know what the seed lines will be going into the selection, and it'll change from here in the next 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. But we will know going into the selection show likely what our draw is, what seed we're going to be. But I do think something of note, this week, Western Michigan received 17 first-place votes in the media poll, which is the most ever in program history. So
that's impressive.
Most ever. So it's
a sign that things are working.
Big steps coming from the Western Michigan hockey program. It's really Pat Ferschweiler has really turned this program into a national contender year in and year out now.
It's just something to see because going into the season, I think every time we talk about the hockey team, we mentioned that. We weren't expected to be as good as this. Really, we weren't expected this good. And just to see that now we're one of the best teams in program history is something that you can really only credit. You can obviously we're crediting every player, but Ferschweiler has done just an incredible job at rallying his guys to be the best they can. These freshmen that have come in have played out of their mind, and you got to just think what that locker room presence is like, and how they're responding to everything their coach is saying, and it obviously goes to them too because they're being very coachable and they're doing what they're told and they're putting their skills up and showing out for the team.
To bounce off of that, this team was picked 6th in the preseason conference media poll. Not in the country. This is 6th in the conference. So to really come in and dominate the conference where they have, you beat up on Denver a little bit, who's supposed to be the blue blood of the conference. 11-time national championship level program. Very few hockey programs are as respectable as that Denver program. That is the standard, and Western really kind of controlled the game against them. And I think, to look at it, this team has just been incredible, kind of on both sides of the puck, special teams included. 2nd in the country in penalty kill percentage, and that includes giving up a power play goal in the last game against Omaha, and I believe that was like 33 straight power plays killed or something for Western that the streak ended, which is just ridiculous. Like, that's unheard of. And also 5th in the country in power play percentage. So when this team does take penalties, they usually kill them, and you can't really take a penalty against Western because they're finding the net, and then combine that with just a dominant shot ratio. Almost every single game you see Western out shooting their opponents by double, and you have 2 goalies who are leading the country in goals allowed per game, 1 and 2. Just an incredibly well-rounded team from the top down. It's a really deep team. You get production from the 4th line, you get production from the 3rd line. And I think guys like Constantini and Washi deserve a lot of credit for the leadership job they've done. And Rowe, too, being able to step up as seniors on this team. They've been here a couple years. They were really the only continuity for the most part from last year, and being able to help these freshmen transition into a kind of a seamless, just take it and run, take all the momentum of the program and go with it, has been incredible to watch.
And more on Rowe's side of things, for him to be as comfortable as he has been with just taking that Friday game and giving the Saturday game to freshman Hampton Slukinski, that is something that's kind of underlooked. Because obviously, as a senior goalkeeper on the team, you're usually expected to take the net each game.
Yeah.
But I think that coach put in that system, and it's obviously has been working.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big credit to Rowe for listening to his coach and letting that play out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So, sort of in summary, I know you talked a lot about some of the statistics that we have nationally and all that, but so in summary, what would you say are like the things that we're looking to keep doing that are driving this success, and is there anything that maybe could be tweaked a little bit?
Honestly, this team is playing pretty, I don't want to say flawless hockey, because obviously there's always something you can improve, but this is one of the more well-rounded teams in the country. It's just, at this point, there seems to be a pretty clear separation at the top, and it's Boston College, Michigan State, and Western Michigan. Mm-hmm. Those are seemingly the three teams at the top, and I mean, this team, it's hard to nitpick a team that's top 5 in almost everything. Top 5 in goals per game, top 5 in goals against per game, top 5 in shots on goal per game, top 5 in penalty kill percentage, top 5 in power play percentage. You have a star in Alex Bump and 2-star goaltenders in Cam Rowe and Hampton Slukinski. I think this team just needs to stay, kind of hungry. This team is playing with a little bit of an edge, that you kind of have to have. Like, it's kind of like no one believed in us. Yeah. We're gonna keep going. And now that you are in first place, now that you are fighting for a 1 seed, don't stop there. If these guys stay hungry, this team is really, really dangerous come tournament time.
Kind of bouncing off that, they've won 11 of their last 12 games. So it's there it's got to come from a mindset perspective of we just want more. We can't settle. I mean, 11 out of 12. Yeah. You could easily go into this Arizona State. I mean, obviously, you have a chance to get the first place seats. I know they're hungry for that, but it would be easy to go into it thinking, okay, we've won 11 of our 12. Mm-hmm. We're pretty solidly in first place here. As long as we just pick up one here, we should be good. But I think that just staying hungry and really digging deep into those 2 wins is something that I think that this team should focus on. And obviously, they are. It's an NCAA Division I top 5 hockey team in the nation. So we're not coaching them, but just giving some perspective on things.
Mm. I think it's been really impressive to see what this team has done. If you look at it, this team has only lost 3 games in regulation. Mm-hmm. One of them on the road to the number 1 team, one of them in a neutral site to the number 2 team, and then the third one was to a Michigan team that's borderline top 10, going to make the tournament on the road after you beat them handedly the night before in your own barn, might I add, too. So I think that this team has just really been just so impressive to me. Just it's been a business-like nature. Just handling business. It's been really impressive. Really, really impressive.
Yeah. And then to transition to something a little bit different, I would like to we on our podcast episode that we had last week, which you should go watch, we had Brandon and Jade on here, and we talked a lot about the multimedia experience, basically, and what that's been like, specifically within Western Herald, sort of the jobs and what you get to do, things like that. And that's something I'd like to explore a little bit more. And we have 2 sports professionals with us here. So I would love to hear about sort of the sports journalism experience in that regard. So if either of you would like to start, we could sort of talk about how you got into sports journalism and got into the Herald in general.
Yeah, I can start. Coming into college, I'm a journalism major, and that's been my major all 4 years I've been here. So I knew that I wanted to do something in reporting, and obviously sports reporting.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the Herald until my second year.
There you go.
My sophomore year of college. So first semester of sophomore year, I joined the Herald, and there was opportunities to write for sports, and I mean, what else was I really here for? So let's just stick to that. And as far as the writing experience has gone and how I've kind of developed, obviously the Herald, I've learned a lot from the Herald.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not required to teach us how to. We're not really required to teach our staffers how to write. I mean, obviously, we want to help them become as best as they can. But I think I've learned a lot from the classes too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, my first experience live reporting came in a soccer game. It was with former editor-in-chief Ben Epstein. It was me and him, and then, funny enough, he went with me to the game, and then he stayed for one half, and then left at halftime and said, "You got it from here." So I did my first interview alone, which kind of, I mean, looking back, I like that he did that because it kind of helped me really get into the environment because it's a pretty tough environment to be in and stressful. So just having that first experience be the most stressful of my career
a little trial by fire.
Yeah, exactly. I can say I don't do that with my staff reporters. Maybe I should, but yeah, that was my first experience, and I feel like I learned a lot from that, and I've been learning ever since.
Yeah,
I got the trial by fire a little bit last year.
Did you?
Yeah, my first live coverage event was a basketball game that you and last year's sports editor Eddie Rosenthal sent me to, and I actually was.
Didn't get anyone with you.
No one went with me, and I was actually the one who had to email the sports information director myself to get the credentials as well.
Wow.
So
hey, I wasn't the editor at that time.
You weren't, but it was all good, yeah. And so anyway, I guess that leads it into me a little bit, and I am a little different than Jack. I came into college dead set on being an aerospace engineer for some reason, I guess. I don't know. I thought I'd be great at the time, but now looking back on it, I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. But I'm now a digital media and journalism major. I transitioned last winter break. Last year's second semester was my first semester.
Yeah.
That was also my first semester with the Herald, and I joined because I wanted to work in sports journalism. I had just switched to a journalism major, and I was looking for some extracurriculars to help me get started. I had literally zero experience before this. I was very much a math guy, hence the engineering background. And the Herald was really the first place I guess I joined. I did that and wider, and obviously I went right to the sports section, and that's what I know. That's what I'm comfortable with, and I've been here ever since. I'm now on the editorial board, and it's awesome. I wouldn't trade this experience for the world. I love going to games and going to practices and stuff, and it's awesome.
Yeah. And then you sort of touched on it a little bit at the end there, but what has been your guys' favorite part about either the work you've done with Herald or just sports journalism in general?
Yeah, I can start. I think that just in general, just my favorite part is covering games and being in that environment.
Yeah.
But I think the most fun, it's stressful but fun, is like the player profiles that we do. I think I have 3 player profiles throughout my years. So those are always, it's good for like experience and stuff, getting one-on-one, really diving into a story more than just a game. So I think that those are the most impactful for me. Those player profiles and other stuff that isn't just recaps. I think that's what I would say for that.
Yeah, I would agree on the favorite. I mean, my favorite part is going to these environments and going to these different games, and hopefully the goal is to go to even bigger than just like MAC basketball and things like that. Go to some big time games, and hopefully the experience at the Western Herald helps me get there. I think it will. I think based on a couple of my other jobs in the field, like Western Herald has prepared me very well. It's gotten me used to writing on a deadline, which I would say is probably the most stressful thing I've dealt with is Saturday night game gets over 10:30, 11 o'clock. Even looking back to the Ohio State football game, I wrote that one. And that game was over at like 11:30, and had to get that one turned around and sent in pretty quick because of print stuff. And so I think that's probably what I would say is the most stressful part of my job. But I love going to different games. I got to go to Michigan State this last week for a different one of my jobs, and I think that's just my favorite part of working in sports journalism is your job is to be around sports. Your job is to watch and talk and write about sports.
Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like me and you are similar in the way that, like, I also didn't have much experience before coming to college with journalism.
Yeah, I had literally none. I had never written a newspaper article.
Same, to be honest.
There you go.
But I think that both of us just love sports enough that we saw this opportunity to be close to sports and just went for it. At least that's where I'm coming from. I don't know if you agree with that.
For sure. I mean, it's one of those things where it's hard for me in my life to give up sports, and obviously I'm not good enough to continue playing them past the high school level. As much as I wish I could, that one wasn't really left up to me, and so this is my way of kind of hanging around.
I was actually going to say that.
Can't quite get rid of me that quickly.
I didn't want to offend you by saying that you weren't good enough.
I'm not good enough. I'll keep it a buck.
And then lastly, I wanted to ask, what is some advice or things you would say for someone who's looking to get into sports journalism and maybe has some anxieties about it or doesn't know where to start?
I mean, if we're talking are you talking about like someone at Western maybe? Or just
someone at Western or just in general?
I think at Western, I mean, the best place for me, I wouldn't be anywhere close to what I am now without the Herald. So I think the best thing for you to do if you're interested in writing sports, and you wanna write, I would say to come to the Herald, and we can definitely accommodate for whatever you need and whatever you're comfortable with. And going more into that, I think that once you know what you want, I think that you just got to dive in and not, because I mean, I couldn't tell you how stressed I was the first time I went, but I think I've just grown ever more comfortable with every game I go to. So I think just putting yourself in that position to be a little bit uncomfortable is the best thing you can do for yourself if you actually are serious about what you want to do, and that in this case being sports journalism.
I think to kind of build off of that, the best advice I could give someone looking to get into sports journalism just in general is, be open-minded. Like, come in willing to learn, willing to, like, you probably don't know very much, if anything, about sports journalism, and that's okay. Like you have a starting point somewhere. Everybody starts somewhere. Like, we're very willing to teach you. And that's another thing I've realized is that people in the journalism world are so friendly. Like, it's not one of those things where you just go around and interact with your peers and it's like everybody's cold to you and kind of keeps you out.
Right.
I've had so many people help me between people in the Herald and people outside of the Herald that, like, just be open-minded. People want to help you. Like, and if you are truly passionate about what you're covering, I think it's easy to learn. Like, it's easy to learn the writing skills if you're true. You can't teach the passion for the subject. So if you are truly passionate about sports, it's just coming with an open mind. We can help you. We can teach you. There are people that you can learn from. That's what I would say.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I think that'll just about do it for this episode of Western Herald Headlined. Remember, there's a lot of sports going on our website that you can read about after games happen, things like that. I know we mentioned player profiles, so make sure you're checking. Excuse me. Make sure you're checking out the sports page at westernherald.com. My name is Aidan Ralko, multimedia editor for Western Herald.
I'm Jack Mennicke, sports editor for Western Herald.
And I'm Joseph Hartzell, the lead sports reporter for Western Herald.
Thanks for watching.